Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fultonland Live. And I just realized that I'm not properly attired. So I'm going to introduce myself for anybody who's new to the show, and then I'm going to turn the camera and the microphone off and correct this situation post-haste while Russ introduces himself. So for anybody who's new to the show, my name is Joe Fulton. I'm the founder of Outlier Comics, and I work in independent comics in a couple of different roles, I guess you could say. I'm a freelance writer and editor, and I've also got my own books that I'm working on. And we'll be launching our first title called The Outliers, Volume 1, this year, later on sometime, hopefully around late summer, early fall, which for us in the US is maybe August or September. So if you are new to the show, this is a place where we like to relax and have fun. We hope to provide some useful information that you can apply to your daily lives, but we like to have a good time doing that. So kick back, relax, and please give a warm round of applause for my co-host, Mr. Russ Leach, and I'll be right back.
He's left me. Where's he going? That's it. So, right. Good evening, everybody. Oh, it's evening here. I suppose it's morning in the States. My name's Russ Leach. I am the lead artist on the Outliers comic with Joe and character development. You can also find me on YouTube as the Comic Book Black Belt. You can find out more about the Outliers production process from the art perspective there, as well as my own work on Only Death Can Save Us. That's my book. And you can find out more about that at onlydeathcansaveus.com. You can find out more about me and connect into all my various places on the internet at russleach.com or comicbookblackbelt.com. And then Joe will be back any minute now with his transformation, I have no doubt. By the way, the Only Death Can Save Us book is still in demand. If you want to go check that out, if the link is not in the description, you can find it at onlydeathcansaveus.com. Just click on the links. And soon, when Joe gets back, we'll be talking about blacklists and whether you should be taking notice of them or not. Then in the second portion of the show, we'll have a reaction to a rather wonderful stream the other day where it showed just how important it is for people to support each other and how much of that goes on in indie comics. So, Joe, where are we going next?
Well, we are going to say hello to everyone in the audience. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We've got Leroy. Good to see you, my friend. Lord Crackhead. Always good to see you. Gentlemen Scoundrels. Oh, wait, wrong account. Eric Weathers. It was me all along. I had a feeling that was you, Eric. You can hide under that beanie, but you can't hide the luscious locks that flow underneath. Phil from Zaid Comics. Good to see you. B Rose. Mr. David Dominguez. Good to see you, sir. Nine Realms Comics. Mr. Michael Odin, I hope you are enjoying the successful launch of your project, sir, The Embrace on Indiegogo. Good stuff, Comics Gator. Yo, back to you, my friend. Mo Biggs, the one and only. We're going to be, later in the show, towards the end, we're going to be having a special ceremony here at Fultonland. And Mo Biggs will be a big part of that. So, Mo, I hope you can stick around for the whole show. That goes the same for you, Leroy, and Crackhead, Mr. Russ Leach, and a few others if they show up today. We've got a very important promotion, I guess you could say, ceremony. We will be here in the Kingdom of Fultonland. We've got a very special dynamic that we're building here. We already have a citizenry, which is just thrilling for Russ and myself.
What an audience.
What's that?
I said, what an audience.
Yes.
People, the chat turning up to just watch us talk shit. That's great.
It's phenomenal. And the fact that people would even show up ahead of time
Hmm.
and hang out and chat with each other, I love it. It's absolutely the sort of atmosphere that I want to encourage us all to create together. And the part of that dynamic for me, it was thinking about the channel, what I want to do with it. I really want it to be a place where different things intersect, such as comics in general, indie comics specifically, the comics that we're making together, Russ, but then also the books that other people are making. This isn't going to be a channel where we sell every week, but it is a place where I want to spotlight creators and campaigns that Russ and I take a particular interest in for any number of reasons, where we can invite a guest on and really get to know them as a person and help the people in the chat to get to know the creator as a person. And they might have an active campaign when they're on the show. They might not, but it's really the getting to know them and them getting to know us. And when I say us, I'm not just talking about Russ and I, but the entire indie comics or just comic book reader audience in general, because anybody can show up in the chat, right, Russ?
It's all about spreading the love. It's like both my channel and Joe's is about comics and indie development, and just like being open and transparent and inviting anybody to come join us. The door's always open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so when I was thinking about this channel and what I wanted to do with it, I was kind of thinking of the internet. If you think of the internet as a world, then you got a whole bunch of different continents and countries that exist in the world of the internet. And I was thinking how comics would be kind of like a small continent on the planet of the internet, if you will, if you'll indulge me in this metaphor for a minute. And then I was thinking how on that continent, you have the subcontinent of independent comics. And on the subcontinent, you have, let's say, a country which is crowdfunded comics. And so you've got these things that exist out there, and you get smaller and smaller and smaller as you get more and more focused on what your interests are, what your likes and your dislikes are. And I was thinking about how it's almost like I want this channel to be a kingdom that exists within the country of crowdfunded comics. And there are lots of different kingdoms within that country. If we go back, several hundred years, maybe 500-600 years in European history, and you would have a country like England or France or Germany, where you had this giant landmass, but it was divided into multiple different kingdoms. And the different kingdoms would either be allied together, or they'd be fighting against each other, or they'd be ignoring each other. And whatever they were doing at the leadership level always had an effect on people at the everyday working man and woman level, right? Does that make sense, Russ?
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. That makes me, damn it, I get a title.
That's right.
I want to be Lord. I want to be a Lord.
You are getting a title today, my friend.
Yeah, fantastic.
Because we're all citizens here in the Kingdom of Fultonland, and if I'm the citizen king, then that means you're the citizen something or other. And
bullshitter in chief, probably.
Well, okay, so there's that. There's a captain of the guard.
I'd quite like to be a general. I think
a general.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. How about
could I be a samurai general? There you go.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
I'll go with that. I'm happy.
Absolutely.
With that.
The samurai general of Fultonland.
Yeah. That'll
okay.
Be good. I'm
all right.
good with that.
That's it. I now
like it.
I dubbed thee Russ Leach, Samurai General of Fultonland, and to formalize it,
Here we go.
let's see. Let me go back up to where your name is, and you are now a moderator. Russ Leach, Samurai General of Fultonland.
Fantastic. I have been bestowed a fantastic, title. That's brilliant.
Yep. Now,
and
as
the responsibility that goes with it.
Absolutely. With privilege comes responsibility. And I'll get into the details more now that I've roped you in and you can't get out of it. I'll tell you the details later as to what this all means. We'll save that for closer to the end of the show. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So, anyway, thank you guys again for joining. We're going to get into this whole idea of who's blacklisting the blacklisters. I just want to say hi to some of the folks who have joined in the last few minutes. I Borrow Ideas, Statistical Zero. Good to see you guys. Jasper Plan 9, Insaniacs Draws, Amanda B. So many great familiar faces in the chat today.
Sim has turned up.
Sim, salute, my friend. Good to see you. George Travelos is here. Now it's a party. We can begin. Excellent. Okay, so let's bring up a little article that came out last week. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. We don't need any audio for this one. This is Bleeding Fool. We're not going to go through the whole article today. We're just going to kind of touch upon some highlights. And this is in case not everybody has seen the article in question. Let me get the chat back up here. I don't want to lose that. There we go. Sorry, guys. I want to make sure I can see your comments. Okay, everyone can see the article?
Yeah.
All right, great. So, quick history lesson. In 2020, Bleeding Fool ran a series of articles revealing that there was a blacklist which existed in comics. We don't know I don't remember, I should say, if it was ever actually written down and published to a group of people, but there certainly was a list compiled, and the secret group, or we sometimes refer to it as a whisper network, was outed by a Bleeding Fool reporter, and it was called Women in Comics, and I'm sure it still exists. It's on Facebook, and it was a secret group. So apparently on Facebook, you can have public groups, private groups, and then secret groups. And with the secret groups, you can't see it unless you're invited to join it and you actually become a member. And this Women in Comics group was one of these secret groups. And it included a lot of very high profile people in the comic book industry, including Gail Simone and Kelly Sue DeConnick. And it also included people who were so-called journalists like Heidi McDonald of the Comics Beat and others. So if you want to look at the series of articles, they're very informative. Everything is sourced responsibly. And so you can look on Bleeding Fool's website and you can see those articles from last year. This now is more or less a follow-up. And I'll give you the title here if you want to look it up. The comic industry no longer has a blacklist. It actually has two. And the thing with these secret groups, these whisper networks, is that there's never only just one. There's, as far as I've been able to determine in my own research and in corroborating my theories with other people who have investigated this, there's always been, for as long as it really matters to go back when you dig into this stuff, there's always been multiple groups. And I'm sure it started out as harmless social gatherings. It probably started people who would hang out together at conventions, that sort of a thing. And then when social media really blew up, then they kind of continued their backroom associations and backroom dealings online, like so many people do. So these whisper networks would form, it's not even conspiracy theories. I mean, at this point, it's been proven. They have these conspiracies where they just try and decide who's going to be successful and who's going to fail in the comic book industry. So this article here, it says back in 2016, this blacklist was relatively short. How to get on it? Simple. Be openly conservative. And they talk about how the conservative blacklist was created and new names were continually being added to that list depending on whether a particular creator was openly conservative or they were strongly suspected of being conservative. Then oftentimes their names were added to that list. So the main thrust of this article is saying that hedging with the comic book left, which quickly became the far left and then evolved into the extreme comic book left, came with unforeseen consequences. And so now they talk about in 2018, no more quote, and this is important. This is a direct quote. Gross, right-leaning, garbage people. Now it's not even people who are openly conservative. It's just people who, quote-unquote, lean right, which, as many of us have come to find out in recent years, now, Russ, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like in recent years, if you are to the right of the extreme left, then
no, this is all code. This isn't left and right. Because if it was about left and right, we'd be talking about real political issues. This is just mudslinging, and whether you're in the group or not. And that a lot of these people have a particular way of looking at the world, which has got nothing to do with politics and everything to do with their own biases. And effectively, if you don't agree with them, you must be silenced. And this is happening across culture, across pop culture at the moment. And this is just that, this upspringing within the comics environment. And because of the way the entertainment tends to lean to the left, these people have worked their way through left-leaning tendencies within the entertainment industry to grab control and then create these blacklists. But at the end of the day, even the entertainment industry needs to make money. And if you start becoming awkward, if you start making yourself something that stops the wheels from being greased, eventually something's going to stop you. And it's going to be, the power of business. The people that, as much as we look at Marvel and DC and don't like a lot of what they're doing, at the same time, there's a whole bunch of business decisions that they take. So, for instance, Nike coming out and being sort of woke in the way that they are, that's because they think they're going to make money out of this. Not all of this is ideological. Okay, some of it is just pure business decisions, but they're bad business decisions because unfortunately the world has leaned towards thinking that Twitter is the voice of the common people, the voice of the general public, the voice of the biggest audience in town, and it's not.
Yeah.
And that's because of these biases that have been, have been part of the thought process of these people. And I think it's a much larger problem. We're seeing it happen all the time, but is it? I can't remember who it was that said that politics was. Is it pop culture is upstream from politics?
Yeah, I think it goes that politics is downstream from culture.
Yeah. So whatever goes on in these small little packets, and the normies don't notice it. I mean, for instance, I'm into comics and I'm into pop culture and what have you. But my wife and kids are noticing it now. They're seeing it happen. People around us are seeing it happen. It's not just a few people in comics that are saying if you're if you have any kind of views that are right of me, you're obviously a nazi, okay?
Right.
And so you should never get any work ever again. It's not just happening in comics; it's happening everywhere, and normies are seeing it, and that's a good thing, because if it's out in the open, people can see just how ridiculous it is that we can't all talk with each other, have reasonable arguments, have different points of view, and then, you know, if we don't agree to disagree and sit down and have a beer afterwards. That seems to be something that's been lost, and especially in these you know, entertainment environments where people are living in a little bubble effectively. And so this bubble has created this environment where these people, this in particular, this Whisper network, believe that it's okay for them to stop other people that they don't agree with getting work.
Right.
Which is hideous, utterly hideous. But what they're doing is, by doing that, there's still an essence of business decision making around them. And they're showing those people that are making those business decisions that actually they're awkward, and they may well be awkward in the future.
Yeah.
And as such, they're shooting themselves in the foot, which I think the article goes on to talk about.
Yeah, very well said, Russ. It says here, it was sunshine and rainbows for the extreme comic book left. They'd seemingly won. This is, again, going back to 2018 now. So they'd flexed and stomped their big-footed boots all over the mainstream industry, the indie side of the industry. And it says, after all, they'd gotten everything they wanted, full infestation of popular culture outlets, not just comic books, but everything you can think of, from comics to movies to TV to video games to professional sports. If it's recreation, if it's supposed to be escapist entertainment, they want to take it over. And in many cases, they have. So the article goes on to say that there were still some quote unquote old-fashioned folks at the top of the rapidly shrinking industry. And so these veterans, as it says here in the article, that they weren't actually conservative or right with a capital R, or even centrist with a capital C. No, most of those types had already been ousted. So how exactly do you intimidate and harass writers like Scott Snyder, Cullen Bunn, and Sean Murphy and force them out of those top slots that you want for yourself? Again, this is from the perspective of the extreme left. You can't do it publicly, the article says. No, that's too risky. You would need to quietly plant seeds of discord and whisper rumors into the correct ears. And we all know that no one whispers like the network. So that's referring to these previous series of articles. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend that you do. It's very, very enlightening. And so it says here that the word Comicsgate is a primary weapon for the extreme comic book left. And to help with their campaign, this being their Whisper Network campaign, quote, Comicsgate, unquote, and, quote, conservative, unquote, became synonyms. So they've drawn this false equivalency between Comicsgate and conservative. And those of us who have been in and around Comicsgate for years now, as well as people who have been in and around it for a few months, it's very obviously not quote unquote conservative. There are people of every background you could think of, every appearance you could think of, every ethnic heritage you could think of, every dating preference you can think of. It's a false equivalence that they created because they had already demonized capital C conservatives, and now they wanted to demonize Comicsgate as well. Welcome, John Celestri, to the chat. It's good to see you.
John Celestri is a legend.
He is.
Yeah, he's a legendary animator, and I would guess that John is. Shall we say? I would imagine he's probably politically left. I would say I'm probably sort of a little central left in a lot of the things that I think. He's a great guy because he likes to discuss things.
Yeah.
He's he's old guard, you know, like has an open mind and talks to people. He's incredibly respectful and a genuinely decent sort, as well as being incredibly talented. And that's all that anybody can ask for, is that, you know, you stay professional, you stay courteous, you stay respectful. And, you know, if you want to talk about things like politics or religion, as we all know, those two things are the things that get people more aggravated than anything, that you can have a discussion and agree to disagree. The whole problem is with what's going on in the very general terms. And like I say, not just pop culture, but across the whole landscape, is people being demonized for having ideas and making everybody lumped in with the worst. So as soon as you're, you know, right of Lenin, suddenly you're Hitler, and that's just wrong. We you know, the only way to get rid of bad ideas is to have them out in the open and discuss them, so that we can all agree what's a good and bad idea, rather than just being told you must think this way. It's great to have people like John around, and yourself and people in the chat, you know, to discuss things properly. And articles like this are simply showing up those people that are intolerant, to be honest, intolerant and not prepared to talk to other people. We see a lot of it over here in the UK, where people are just demonized instantly for having a different opinion or speaking their mind. You know, like it's okay to have a bad thought. It's not okay to act on it. And suggesting that thoughts or bad thoughts are in some way violent or in some way make you evil. They don't. They're just thoughts. The whole point of our humanity is to do the right thing. So, you know, everybody's got good and bad in them, and what we do is suppress the bad and with the power of our better sides. And you can't just instantly label people and say they're bad. It's just wrong. You need to talk. You need to discuss. You need to communicate. And what these people were doing is just. I made a crack earlier about journalism, because somebody was talking about journalism class, and I said, "Oh, what the class that." The journalism 101, go to Twitter and repeat everything you see there. You know, where's the journalism anymore? I know we're talking on a much wider scope here, but it is definitely an issue that's you know, going across the board. It's entering lots of different entertainment areas, lots of politics. When I say politics, I talk about the broad spectrum of politics.
Sure.
And it's just intolerance. That's all it is, intolerance. And for whatever reason, corporations have got behind some of those views that those intolerant people have. And those are business decisions once again. And I don't know why some of them do it, but they do. And, you know, on a wider scope, if we talk about you know, for instance, why CG turned up and why a lot of independent people went their own way. It's because the audience was reduced. We can take this all the way back to the nail in the coffin that was the direct market. I love comic book shops, absolutely adore them, but I love even more the idea of having books on shelves in 7-Elevens and pharmacies and places like that, and seeing all kids being able to grow up with comic books. So you can go all the way back there and see that there was a problem with that. But then as we move into the modern age, you know, we see Marvel and DC, because they've been restricted. I pick them out mainly, but obviously there are other comic book companies. Other comic book companies are available. But I pick those two guys out because they're the biggest, and they see their restricted market, and they're scraping, they're like clawing for a new audience, and they move because they're left anyway. You know, generally, you know, entertainment is that kind of that direction of politics. These people have been able to find a foothold, and instead of saying, right, okay, let's do more things, okay, let's be truly diverse and get diversity of thought as well as diversity of personage, of immutable characteristics, and make new audiences, but also keep the old audience. This is something I don't understand from a business perspective. I've been in business for a long time before I came back to comics. And the idea of removing one audience so that you can have another is terrible business.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely terrible. And it doesn't matter if you think that this new audience will eventually kill the old audience or outlive the old audience.
Right.
You want to keep the old audience for as long as you can, okay? Because they make money. So you know, there really is this sort of dichotomy that they're trying to get new audiences, and that's a good thing. I applaud comics for everybody. You know, make a comic, and if people want to buy it, fine, let them buy it. But the idea of saying you can only have this kind of comic, or you can only put these kind of ideas in it, and that's the end of it. And those people that like those other comics, they need to go away now.
Yeah.
It's intolerant, and it's terrible business.
Yeah, well, and to your point, Russ, this next statement here in the article where they say the secret word gets a makeover is that the word Comicsgate is the primary weapon for the extreme comic book left. And to help with their campaign, Comicsgate and conservative became synonyms. So now that they've drawn that false equivalence after they, you know, effectively ran out any capital C conservative who let it be known that they had anything, any sort of different idea from the extreme left, who had, by this point in 2018, held positions of authority and had run out the outspoken ones to the best of their abilities, and then were, you know, kind of patrolling for anyone else who might pop their head up and say, "Well, hang on, have we ever considered something different?"
I think the only thing I would argue with, and that's on a political perspective, is I wouldn't call these people left. I think it's unfair to tar the left with the brush of this intolerance. It's not all left. It's not all right. These people are simply using that as a cover, in my view.
Do you think that when an article like this, where they differentiate the extreme comic book left from others, like people that I would say sensible, normal, sane liberals or sane people on the left?
I think this might be an international thing.
Sure. Oh yeah, sure.
I think there may be because over here we've got exactly the same situation where you know, like my parents voted Labour. There's a very strong working class ethic involved in the left, but the people that are turning up aren't really left. They're just using it as cover for their intolerance, and that's what you got here. But that's probably just like a transatlantic issue of, you know, for instance, the word liberal means different things in different places, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And I was going to it, and Sim has pointed this out a couple of times, and Stato earlier said something relevant, and I'm going to get to your guys' comments and call those out, because I think that they're definitely relevant and well said. So Russ, back to what you were saying, do you think, and this is my personal opinion, it's more about authoritarianism versus individualism?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it on a very if you look at the theory of politics, obviously it's a horseshoe, isn't it? So, you know, either way, whether you go too far right or too far left, it all becomes authoritarianism in the end, because they want you to do what they want you to do, not what you want to do. And that's authoritarianism. And there's lots of other words you can use that we'd probably get stopped from streaming if I said them out loud.
Thank you for not saying them.
Yeah,
we do want to keep the Kingdom of Fultonland on the air.
Exactly, but effectively, that's what it is: authoritarianism. Do what we say, otherwise, or else. So,
a lot of that, Russ, I think, does come down to authoritarianism and the abuse of the unhealthy pursuit of power by certain people, and then if they attain it, then the abuse of that power after they have it, which is what they were hoping for, even if they didn't actually say it publicly. And Statistical Zero let me come back to, I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment so I can come back to
Mhm.
StreamYard, and I want to highlight some of these comments here. If I can get back to the proper window. Come on, Boomer, you can do it.
So I think that the article, I mean, the article is definitely worth a read. Obviously, it will, as with any article, it's always opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, these aren't hard and fast facts. There is opinion involved. So it can be a back and forth. But as I think what the gist of the article is where you start making it hard for people to produce within an industry or a business.
Yep.
If you are a small group of people who are making it hard for others to work, then you're also making it hard for the employer, for the business, for the corporate. And
Mm-hmm.
as such, you're putting a target on your own back.
Yeah. And so what happened was that a lot of these people who were part of this Women in Comics secret Facebook group that were targeting people and trying to destroy their ability to earn an income, trying to ruin their lives. What happened was that a lot of their coworkers who shared many of the same primary sociopolitical beliefs, they said, you know what? They say they're on the left, we're on the left, but now they're no longer just going after the conservatives as they said they were. Now they're going after people on our side as well. So when you have people who are outspoken lefties like Scott Snyder, like Sean Murphy, and these blacklisters, these proponents and kind of keepers of the whisper networks are going after people, quote unquote, that are supposed to be on their own side. And again, I agree with you, Russ. It's not about sides of right and left. It's about authoritarians versus individualists. And so when you have somebody like Sean Murphy, who's extremely successful, well, the keepers of the blacklist, they don't like that. That he's got the kind of wealth and fame and power that they want.
There is a lot of jealousy involved as well. There's a lot of envy involved, and a lot of denial of the past, a lot of denial of real history, so that they can rewrite it the way they want it to be, so that it makes them look like the heroes, so that they get the plaudits and they will eventually get the work. But the trouble is it doesn't matter how much you convince everybody that the past was bad, or that mistakes were made, or that people were bad, evil, or whatever. If you're then the only people that are left and the stuff you make to entertain people is rubbish, you're still not going to get the plaudits, and you're still going to end up not getting the work.
Right.
Because eventually you'll be the only people left, and eventually people will just stop buying your stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm pretty sure someone famous said that. If you don't like it, don't buy it. So there you go. And you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Okay. If you don't like my book, don't buy it. That's fine. But that doesn't mean that you should put down people for having an opinion. That you should say, well, you're wrong, you're bad because your opinion is not like mine. Or that if in that particular instance, if those people have an opinion about a character or a story that has real history, that has a legacy, and that people have enjoyed for a long period of time, and then some creator turns up, completely amends it or changes it,
right,
and is not prepared to hear any criticism.
Yeah,
so
forgive me, Russ. All of this talk of authoritarianism and
it's making you hot under the collar.
It's getting me hot under the collar, and I'm gonna have to take off my my corduroy blazer.
I think what we've seen here is as I suggested earlier, we've seen this issue where people who are extremely difficult and make it difficult for other people to do their job end up getting the target put on them, and they're in trouble.
And so what happened in
2 minutes?
Yeah, no worries. So what happened in the article was uh, the people who were deciding they were going to blacklist other professionals in the industry. It's the it's one of those things where turnabout is fair play, right? So now there are those people found themselves on a blacklist. Ironic, and in my opinion, extremely funny and well earned. They earned their way onto this. So now the blacklist of the blacklisters has been revealed, and it's on the Bleeding Full website. I posted a link to the article in the chat. If you guys want to check it out, you can get all the details. I found it to be very enlightening, and I kept the phrase "just desserts" kept coming to mind as I was
What
reading.
goes around comes around. Karma's
Mhm.
a bitch. Also, be nice on the way up,
Yeah.
because on the way back down, you want people to be nice to you. It's just about what I find difficult to understand. And I'm going to be open and honest here. This is also about other people that I've met along the way. I
Mhm.
never understand flaky creators. I
Yeah.
never understand people not producing what they say they're going to, and I
Mhm.
don't understand people being cruel to each other and intolerant in business at all.
Yeah.
If I was to have done some of the things that I've seen done in the last 5 or 6 years to customers, when I was in business, when I had my own businesses, when I was working for clients, and when I was working for other employers,
Mhm.
I would have been fired or out of work.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It's completely alien to me to see that kind of activity.
Right.
But there you go. I think it's just a matter of being, professional and courteous, and it gets you an awful long way. If there's any young creators out there, and you're all younger than me probably, if there are any young creators out there listening to this, that's the best thing you can be. Be courteous, be professional, be on time. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good points. Definitely good points. And I think what we've all been witness to over the last few years, the last 5 years in particular, is a lot of with the advent of social media and then an exploding in popularity, a lot of the ugly underbelly of the comic book industry has been exposed. And so we get articles like the one that we were just discussing, how the people who were putting together these blacklists, a lot of them found themselves on a blacklist where publishers are saying, we can't hire those people anymore because their former colleagues are refusing to work with them. Someone like Alex DeCampi, who has very publicly gone after many professionals, and we have found out that in private has gone after many more. And so she's got herself in a position now where she is so radioactive from a business perspective that people at Marvel, when her name was brought up, and this is detailed in the article, when her name was brought up by one of her friends to possibly get her on Iron Man, there was a very, very strong backlash from other people at Marvel who said, there is no way I'm going to work with her. If you put her on the project, I'm not working on it. And they, quite frankly, from what I've been able to determine, it seemed like they couldn't find a staff to put around her that they felt like they could actually work on that book. Yeah, Crackhead says it in the chat, the Alex DeCampi clause. That's that people in their contracts literally are putting in what has been termed over at Marvel the Alex DeCampi clause, which means you don't try to get me to work with her. If there's a convention, you don't get me on the same panel with her. You don't have me in the same hotel with her. Or if there's absolutely no other hotel that's available, you do not put my room next to hers. You do not put me in the same wing of the building as hers. And so it sounds insane, yet think of all of the things that a person like that would have to do to their colleagues.
Yeah.
in order to get themselves put on a list where the people all around them are just refusing to have anything to do with them.
That's I mean, only in the entertainment industry can you really get away with that. No
Yeah.
other business. Oh, maybe politics.
Mm,
No other business could you get
good
away with
point.
that. No other
Good
business
point.
could you get away with it.
Eh,
And seeing business the way I have, and I know you have as well. It's I just don't get why it's allowed to do that. I think in fairness, I mean, almost in fairness, the comic book industry for the longest time has been very cliquey.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
there's a lot of nepotism involved and a lot of friends of friends, and it is difficult to get into. But there was always this way of, if you worked really hard, you could get into it. I still think there's some of that left, but only in very rare cases.
Mhm.
And actually, the problem is the comic book industry has shrunk so much that the spaces are just so small.
Yep.
And of course, what you're going to do is, if you're going to lean on people, you're going to lean on your regular talent, the talent that you already have. And then the few people that are now getting in, literally are getting in because they know someone, and they fit the mold that they want to portray for the business. Again, some bad business decisions, some bad business processes, but
Mhm.
also just a terrible clique. But it's not the first time this has happened, as far as the business is concerned. But it's the first time it's been this focused,
Right.
and the business has been this small. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
And it's
Hence,
going. Yeah, it's
hence
going.
crowdfunding. So
Exactly. Exactly. Crowdfunding. And it's not just in comics, as you were saying, it's all of entertainment. So
mm,
it's in animation, it's in video games,
yeah, and
it's in film and TV.
so much more independent stuff is being created now. And I think
Absolutely.
we've spoken about this for a little while. There's a downside to this. We've been sort of thumping on entertainment, thumping on the comics book industry, and we wanted to have a lighter side as well.
Hmm.
I think finishing off, like I spoke to my kids earlier. I've spoken to other people as well, and there's very little of mainstream entertainment being really taken in now. Most of it's being taken in from online systems like Netflix or whatever, or just people go to YouTube. As much as YouTube is a love-hate relationship, there is a lot of content on there, and people go there now. And so a lot of independents, including, as you were just saying, which is what made me think of it, people like animation studios, game studios, toys,
Yeah.
what have you, are going through crowdfunding. And it's a great model, because what you do is you can give, and we're both aware of this, um, you can give the people that come with you, that crowdfund you, that believe in you, you can give them a premium product, and then you can move to the rest of the world afterwards, and everybody gains from it, because the products are truly independent. They're not at the behest of a larger corporate or an editorial team that are saying you must do things a certain way. And that's the great thing about this. From every fire, a phoenix will arise, and that's what's happening right now in indie comics, and has been for CG sort of did their thing, and they're still doing it. And indie comics in general is benefiting from the buzz that it's created, just like with Image. Okay, and just like back in the 80s when you had the underground comics, it's all cyclical, and this whole thing that we're going through with our culture in general is cyclical as well. There will be, it'll turn over and things will change. But at the moment, what we've all got to appreciate are the opportunities.
Hmm.
So from a business perspective, there's the opportunities to make new businesses and to generate new channels of entertainment. From a creative perspective, there's the opportunity to be funded by people that come with you through
Right.
crowdfunding, and then you go out to the more open market, which means that you're free to create the way that you want to create. And there's an
Hmm.
opportunity for real solidarity, okay, between people like the chat we've got here today
Hmm.
and creators, and having a proper conversation, a proper interaction between the people that create and tell the stories and the people that consume them. So
Yeah, and so with all of that being said,
Sorry, is what Leroy just said.
he has a thing. He has a thing for finger sniffing. I don't know.
Obviously, yeah.
I
I've only
don't
got the
know.
I've got the two.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because he grew up drinking the West Virginia well water, or
I
if
don't
it's
know.
something he learned when he was traveling overseas. I don't understand it, but
Finger smelling is a thing. I understand that. I
yeah,
think it's not something we do a lot of in England, but I do know some people that do it. So there you go.
yeah, it's
So if we move on to the upside of what's going on, so we talked about how great crowdfunding and the way and this opportunity that we all have to like
mhm.
raise up entertainment and storytelling and work at it all as a group, as a force, as it were. Something special happened last week.
Yes, it did, and the so I put up this comment here from Insaniac Straws. He said creatives don't like being told what they can and cannot do,
Fucking right, I don't.
and something that I would add to that is customers also don't like being told what they can and cannot do.
No,
And you don't if you want to have a successful business, I don't recommend shaking your finger at them on the internet and telling them how bad and how that they're garbage people that they are, how bad their ideas are, and so on and so forth, comparing
mm,
them to World War II German bad guys that everybody knows the comparison is a false one, and nobody takes you seriously when you do that. And
no,
so when you do that to creative people, when they're not going to want to produce anything creative with you or for you, and when you do it to customers, they're not going to want to buy anything that you
no,
try and produce.
no.
So the what happened last week, for those in the chat who might be wondering what we're talking about, is that Billy Basco painted a tribute to the AR-15 orangutan project that sprung up out of Mo Biggs's imagination and is being made real by a dedicated and enthusiastic group of people who want to see something fun happen for the sake of having fun. And so, if Russ, if you've got the
I
video and
have.
you can share your screen,
I do indeed.
um, then we'll show you guys a little clip from what happened. And basically, Billy did this fantastic digital painting on behalf of this kind of group project that we're taking on. Let me remove the banner there. And Billy did this phenomenal painting. And if you're wondering about AR-15 orangutan, essentially, it was a friendly and good-natured jest that Mo came up with as a tribute to Brian Christgau's Six Gun Gorilla, which is a fantastic IP. It was inspired by if I remember correctly, a dime store novel that was published many decades ago, and the character is in the public domain. And so Brian was inspired by not just the character, but the story of how the dime store novel was created. And so he took that idea and he really created this whole I guess you could call it mythology around the idea of a gorilla who could actually operate a firearm and do it proficiently. And so I have the Six Gun Gorilla series on my shelf. I highly recommend people check it out. If they're interested, it's on Indiegogo. It's just the word six dash gun and then gorilla. So Mo was joking about how he's got this project called AR-15 orangutan, and he was joking about how it was gonna, just blow everyone out of the water when they all saw what a great character it was, and how magnificent the project was and everything. And so this all was happening in the live chat of Michael Bancroft's nightly live stream. And if people want to check that out, it's 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, usually from Tuesday through Saturday U.S. time. Occasionally he'll stream on a Saturday, occasionally he'll stream on a Monday, and usually he takes Sundays off. So anyway, the idea was that this orangutan is going around with this AR-15, and he's just wrecking shop all over the place. And people started getting so enthusiastic about the idea and the character, they wanted to actually turn it into a comic. And so people started creating artwork for it. And a couple weeks ago, we saw artwork pop up on Twitter. And this was one of the pieces that really caught on. It more or less went viral. And so what happened is that Mike was so blown away by how much time and effort that Billy put into this, and he did it completely for free. He didn't ask for a dime from anyone. He just did it out of his own enthusiasm. And so he posted it to Twitter, and it just started making the rounds, and people fell in love with it. So Mike brought Billy onto the show, and he basically said, hey guys, we're going to try and crowdfund some cash for Billy as a thank you for what he's done, for us, for this idea. We're basically making a dream come true through the efforts of people who are volunteering their time and their skill to make this thing happen. So Billy produced this phenomenal digital painting, and then on the show that we've got a clip of here, people just poured in their enthusiasm and their generosity, and we ended up crowdfunding something like $500 for Billy as a result. So go ahead and roll the clip, Russ.
Yeah. If
oh,
this
you know
works.
what? Did you share audio?
I don't know. Hold on a sec. Let's do it again.
Okay.
Let's do it again. Share screen. Okay. Says I should have a share audio checkbox, but I can't see one.
Yeah, it's usually towards the bottom of the screen, and the box is really tiny.
No, I can't see one. Try it.
Okay. Let's add it. And okay. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Sorry about the wait, everyone. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Okay. Well, StreamYard isn't giving you the option to see the chat.
No, it's not giving me anything
within StreamYard either. So, okay. I'll pull it up here. And we will see something very cool. It was a lot of fun. I said
it's about halfway through. It got really cool. Yeah, there was lots of people being extremely generous at that point. And roll the clip. It isn't 1973, Joe.
On this channel, it is. If I decide it is. if I make a what is it, an imperial decree?
But I think this is we've spent a little bit longer than we were going to talking about the blacklist thing and the downside of what's been going on in the entertainment industry in general and comics and what have you. But there are so many good stories that, and I don't mean that by good comics or good films or whatever. I mean good stories of people coming together and doing great things, whether that's creativity, on teams, on books, or that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, or whether it's literally just this. Look, you've got an audience here. You've got the chat coming together to give this guy money for the work that he'd put in. It's a special thing to see that kind of thing happening. It was very intense watching it, because I obviously I can't stay up late for these every night, so I only get to see a few of them live. But it was intense watching it, because you could just all this generosity being thrown in the general direction of this artist, and it's so impressive. And it was so impressive to see people doing that, truly appreciative of what he'd been doing. But also, it wasn't just appreciating that, it was appreciating the whole concept around the AR-15 orangutan, and Michael and yourself, and the whole show, and the interaction and camaraderie that's going on with that show, and the wider sort of community, whether it be CG or indie comics or whatever, people getting together and saying, screw the rest of the world, let's just get on and do this. So it was an incredibly impressive stream. Very, very good. Heartwarming. That's what it was.
I agree. And with that, let's roll the clip.
Without the sound.
Without sound.
Oh, you've got to turn the sound on. You've got to turn the sound on.
Oh, you got it?
I can hear it a little bit. I don't know if you need to.
Were you able to hear that?
I can only hear it just like very, very lightly.
Okay. Let me turn it up.
It's 1973.
How's that? No?
It's very, very sort of in the background. I don't know.
Okay. I'll probably have to adjust the levels then after the show is over.
Right.
Sorry about that, everybody. We've had some technical difficulties last week. we have fewer of them this week, but
yeah, we're actually here on the right channel, which is pretty good.
So anyway, the long and short of it is that it was a great time, lots of fun. Billy was very, very appreciative during the show and after the show, and so I loved it. It was my favorite show of the last few years, either being on it or viewing it. And when I watched the playback, I thought it was just phenomenal.
Just act out the scenes.
So, what do you say, Russ? We've got some more people who have joined. Good to see you guys. Danger Vanessa, Skip Edwards. Let's see, were there others who joined? Jasper has been in and out as he's working hard. Let's go ahead and Mo says no, that won't work. Russ play Joe play Bancroft. You know what I could go for right now? A hard-on thirst needs a
grab me
tall, cold iced tea. I don't know. It's still morning over here, guys. I'm on Pacific time, so I'm just drinking tea. That's it.
Grab me a tinny, Sheila. And then you can make me a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. And then make sure you hashtag it Sandwich Saturday. That's another thing that's come out of the Bancroft show, and people from that chat going back and forth on Twitter, having a good time and enjoying each other's company, which is such a stark contrast to what we were reading about in that article. And I'm really happy that we're in a not just an indie comic scene, but also a Yes, that's right, Mo. He says this is exposing my weaknesses as a director. I've lost control. We've got 2 Bancrofts. So it's one of those things where people are just having a good time, day in, day out, week in, week out, and that it's to the point now where it's year in, year out. Since 2018, indie comics just, especially for me in particular, being in and around CG, it's just been a wild ride. But for the most part, it's been extremely fun.
Yeah.
Not not a day goes by that I'm not chuckling about something, that I'm not looking forward to either talking with somebody or reading about somebody's thing that they're going to be working on. It's fantastic. And I'm getting corrected here. Danger Vanessa says, no, it did not, Joe. This is talking about the origination of Sandwich Saturday. She's saying Bogans don't get all the credit. You know what? This is a great time to give out another wrench. Danger Vanessa, I dub thee Chief Magistrate for the free kingdom of Fultonland. Please use your wrench firmly but fairly, with blind justice, as I know you will. And with that, let's continue in the formation of the what do they call it, Russ, in merry old England?
Merry.
It's not the formation of the royal court, but it's like the people who are in charge of overseeing different functions within the kingdom. So like you've got the chancellor of the exchequer is in charge.
That's the government. That'd be the government, or the Order of the Garter.
Okay.
So you have some high-end officials. Most of them not voted in at all. So it's very much like America, who are in charge, kind of like a shadow government, I suppose.
Okay. Now, do you still have a court jester over there in England?
Yeah, I think he's called Piers Morgan.
Okay. Well, then we're gonna follow that example, and we're gonna have a court jester here in Fultonland. His name is Mo Biggs.
Yeah.
And he's just been wrenched.
Nice.
So Mo, I just want to point out that historically speaking, the role of the jester was not only to entertain people attending court, but also to speak wisdom and truth to those in power. The jester's role was to speak truth to power, and we can always rely on you to do that. So it's my honor to promote you, Mo, from chat member to court jester as well as citizen. Bristolian Dave here.
All right, me babbers.
All right, me babbers. Great to see you, Dave.
That's a bizarre accent.
That's Bristol for you.
It's somewhere in between Bristol and EastEnders. That was very good.
Oh, you know what? We're having so much fun with these promotions. Let's just keep doing them. What do you say, Russ?
I think so. I think who would you consider to be next, Leroy?
Well, yeah, I was realizing that with you being the samurai general of Fultonland, I'm confident that the castle and its environs will be well protected from ambush that I might not see as I'm interacting with you or interacting with guests, interacting with the chat. We're all having such a good time. And so I can rely on you to, keep any sort of those assassins that want to take me out. I can trust that you'll, take care of that sort of business while I'm
going to samurai the shit out of them.
Yeah, I can trust you to take care of that business while I'm, entertaining a world population over here. but I realized I also need somebody who will be the sheriff of the realm, who
Oh,
is going
yeah.
to be out with the people all of the time, isn't going to
Mm.
spend much time, with the royal court. Even though we're all citizens here, I'm a citizen king, you're a citizen samurai general. No one's above
No.
anybody. We have different roles, but
Yeah.
we all bring equal value
But
to
Leroy
the
would be
kingdom.
a true man of the people.
But Leroy, he's out there in the holler. He's hunting with his dogs. He's fishing with his worms. And if
Worms. I love
yeah,
worms.
and if there's some um ne'er do well, some highwaymen trying to rob the good people of Fultonland, who are just trying to get from their farm to the lake to go try and fish for their lunch. I
Use
can
their
rely,
worms.
yeah, using their worms. I can rely on Leroy to help keep the roadways safe.
Yeah, I think give it
So,
to him. Give it to him.
yeah, despite the fact that he abhors responsibility, I have promoted him, and I dubbed the Leroy Sheriff of Fultonland,
Nice.
worms and all.
Very good. Big clap. So after that wonderful ceremony, I think I have this feeling there may be more ceremonies in the future.
Oh, indubitably, my good man.
Indubitably. Discombobulate. I love that word. Sorry. Is it time that we show off a little bit more of the outliers before we depart for the evening or
I
afternoon?
think I think we should. I think that's a great idea.
Okie doke.
I do want to on our way out, as it were, of
Mhm.
the wrenching ceremony. I would like to promote one more citizen. I'm looking for her name in the chat. Amanda B, where are you? If you're able to chat, can you type something in the chat, please? I need a. Where did you go, Amanda? Am I going to have to promote you on the next week's show? Let's see. She was in early on. I think she's lurking. See, that's the thing. So the Citizen King of Fultonland needs to have.
Amanda B is cooking food.
Yeah, she's probably making a fantastic sandwich.
Yeah, she's on Sammy's duty.
The Citizen King of Fultonland needs to have counselors that they can trust, who are not going to get all caught up in the pomp and circumstance of the royal court. People who are relatively new to castle life, and so they have a fresh perspective on things that those of us who spend all of our time in and around the castle, we don't always look at things with fresh eyes when we need to. And so the Citizen King of Fultonland needs to have counselors who can help provide that perspective. And Amanda B is going to get promoted as senior counselor in chief.
Nice. I like that.
There she is. She's working. That's right, Amanda. And you're now promoted. Senior counselor in chief to the Citizen King of Fultonland. Congratulations, cool. Amanda. Okay, we need to get moving, Russ. I realize we're over the 1 hour mark.
We're over an hour. Let's do our thing and show what we've got this week.
Yeah, we've thrown enough wrenches at the good people today. Let's move on and reveal some artwork and give people an idea what we've been up to this last week. We've got some artwork for Outlier Comics, the official style guide that we're putting together. And we've been revealing Oh, thank you very much, Joe Catapano. Just sub to the channel. I appreciate you. And Ink Spots, good to see you, my friend. The color artist for the Outliers. Always good to see Ink Spots show up, especially if you have a clogged toilet. He's a very skilled plumber by day and a world-class color artist by night.
Amazing. Oh, sorry, that's not right. That was I was inspired to draw an orangutan.
I was going to say, that looks suspiciously ape-like.
It is suspiciously ape-like. Talking of which one would you like to show first? Should we go?
Yeah, whichever you got ready is fine.
Let's go Denisovian. There we go. We'll start with him.
All right.
So
can everybody see that? Okay. So let's get into. So this guy is Mo. Don't let the power go to your head. Rose has been timed out.
Oh no.
We don't want to disenfranchise the citizens, Mo. We want to use a light touch whenever possible with our wrenches. Anyway, getting back to the illustration. So this is a character who we're going to see in Chapter 1, Volume 1 of the Outliers. And this guy grew up overseas. I'm not going to reveal too much about his backstory just yet, but basically he was part of a very select group of people who were experimented on by the government that was in power where he comes from. And they did some very naughty things to the genetics of people that they were essentially. They had a control group and they had an experiment group, and they were doing some genetic manipulation and some unsavory mad science type of stuff. And he escaped from that facility, made his way over to the US, and he's been working as a lumberjack out in this remote area of the US, kind of hiding out. As Leroy says, he looks like a West Virginia hillbilly. So, of course, he's Leroy's new favorite. Very well. Ink Spots is thinking pink shirt and yellow stripes. Well, that's very fashion forward of you, Ink, and I do appreciate the initiative. But he's not the most pink and yellow sort of character. Green G-string, again... Nice. Very progressive of you. I appreciate the forward thinking, but not really part of his personality. He's probably either going commando or he's probably wearing some very, heavy duty boxer briefs.
Should we show him commando then? Should we show?
Yeah, let's show what happens when he gets angry and decides to start going commando and just run around with no pants.
This isn't finished. There's some adjustments to be made to the anatomy. We've got to slim the shoulders down and lengthen the legs slightly.
Yeah, so this is an early first draft. What this guy's deal is, the genetic manipulation. Yeah, Vanessa. So he's
a werebear.
He is basically a werebear. And what happened was that in the group that he was part of that was being experimented on against their will, they were basically raised from infancy. You could more or less say that he was a lab experiment, and it wasn't to do this to him. What was happening was that the group that was doing the experimentation, they were trying to do DNA splicing, and they were trying to take DNA from bears in this particular region of the world and splice them in with human DNA as a way to try and create something like a super soldier.
Berserkinu.
So when they were doing this DNA splicing to try to create super soldiers, they were successful, basically. And so the first illustration, Russ, if you don't mind flipping back to that one.
So LGBTQ, the B is for bear.
Yes.
Definitely.
The G is for grizzly. Grizzly bear.
Grizzly bear.
Yeah. So this right here, not counting the middle illustration, but just the left and the right, that's basically the result of the sort of super soldier, superhuman experimentation that was done on this small group of people in his country. And then the one in the middle is when he's starting to transform. And so the experimentation was successful, but the event that happens in the Outliers, which is what causes people around the world to start exhibiting superhuman abilities, that combined with what was done to him genetically is what causes the transformation into the bear. So the people he was with, they're turned into these like superhumanly strong, fast, superhuman endurance type of people. But the event that gives people superhuman abilities, it basically did something extra to his genetically modified DNA, and that's what allows him to transform into this bear thing that we're seeing. So what Russ was saying is that we're going to narrow the shoulders a bit, we're going to extend the legs, we're going to beef up the legs. And so this is one of the things that I wanted to do with this channel is basically show you guys the process, the character concepts that people liked over the last week or two. I'd like to say they just sprang out of my imagination, fully formed, and Russ just had to do some, automatic drawing, and his hand just, magically produce these things. But the reality is that these characters go through several phases of development, and I give Russ a verbal description of what I'm imagining, because in my imagination they're fully formed, but obviously I've got to get it over to him. So I tell him what these company or what these characters are all about. He gives a kind of like a first draft attempt at drawing them, and then we just go back and forth, and we just go through iterations until we come upon a final version that we're happy with.
Smarter than the average bear, boo boo.
Hey, boo boo.
Picnic basket.
Jellystone National Park.
Shall we go with the last one then?
Yes, he does mow.
What's this?
Yeah, he goes in the woods.
Yeah.
Mo says, I know the Buns versus PG-13, but does he poop in the woods? Yes, he does. Certainly.
Does a super soldier shit in the woods? Yep, he does.
So, so this is an example of a character who is this is almost completely finished. So this is a character called Bombshell, and her power is that she can make things explode. Basically what she does is she takes the potential energy within an object, and she I won't go into the nitty-gritty details, but basically she takes that potential energy within and around objects and then converts it into explosive energy, and the thing goes boom. So where we started with was mostly in this middle figure, and I had given Russ some guidance as to what her physique would look like. Insaniac's draws. Yeah, that's very close. He says agitates atoms, and yeah, that's very close. Let's get that comment up there. And then Leroy says, yeah, potential to kinetic energy. It's physics. Yeah, basically, it's she's converting potential energy to kinetic energy, and she makes things explode. So the thing though is that all of these characters are new to their powers, and so they learn good and bad things in the course of the 12 chapter introductory story arc to the Outliers universe. And so one of the things I told Russ is that she's going to have to learn some lessons along the way. You know, her power is very dangerous, even to herself. So even though she's not necessarily affected by the energy explosions that she causes, she is susceptible to their side effects. So, for example, let's say she made a tree explode, and then, you know, pieces of wood are flying at her face. They could literally stab her eyes out. So you see here, we've got a couple of headshots where she's got a mask, and then one where she's got goggles. And so the characters in the Outliers universe, they go through a growth process in the 12 chapter story. So some of them, the costumes will start out one way, and then for practical reasons, the characters realize they need to change. Inkspot says she's going to pop a breast implant, but let me assure you, Ink, she's all natural. There's no plastic in Bombshell. Well, maybe her boots are plastic. That could be. But anyway, so this is one example where, you know, she, after a couple of close calls, she decides to start wearing goggles so that when stuff explodes around her, she doesn't get her eyes put out by shrapnel. There was a comment here from Crackhead. What would happen if she did that to something that was already an explosive? Would it become more powerful, or question mark? That's a good question. That's something that we're going to find out within the story. But let's just say you may be onto something there. The last thing I want to say about Bombshell is that this is an example of concept art that is nearing completion. So we've gone through a couple of different adjustments with her figure, her physique. We've almost landed right on target in terms of the costume. One of the things that I'm going to talk with Russ about, and you guys in chat can chime in, is the possibility of, I can't remember where I saw it, but there was some character in the Bronze Age, I want to say it was Marvel, female character who was basically wearing a bustier like this, but it was, I think it was closed and zipped, and then there was a collar that came up. It's like it came up almost in an arrowhead shape up around the collarbones, and then there was a collar. So anyway, Russ, I'm going to try to find that reference.
Okay.
And if I can find it, I'll give it to you. If we can't kind of get that look dialed in, then we'll probably go with this top that she's got.
Okay.
So let me go. Did she make her organs explode? Yeah, believe it or not, Mo, ladies with small waists have relatively small organs, and they all fit in there. I know that we're told on the internet that that's not true, but doctors say otherwise. And Leroy is here giving us some math. Thank you, Leroy.
Very good.
And
thank you, Jasper. Thank you. I saw a question from him earlier whether I'd been in the mainstream or not. Technically, yes. Technically is always the best kind of truth. Technically true. I've worked on Doctor Who. I work with Cartoon Network on Ben 10 books a couple of years back. I also did a 4-year run on an art book for Marvel called Draw the Marvel Way, which is like an homage to the old How to Draw the Marvel Way with Stan Lee and John Buscema. But it was a bi-weekly book. And unfortunately, I banged my head against editorial and never got to get any further than that with Marvel. Yeah, I've technically been in the mainstream, but have pretty much remained anonymous. So that's why I decided to go off and do my own thing. The Doctor Who magazine was for the younger viewers, for the younger market, and it was Doctor Who Adventures, which ran in the UK. I did a 2.5-year stint on that.
Yeah, and I was actually the Doctor Who work that Russ posted online, combined with the work he was posting on Only Death Can Save Us, is what put him, for me, at the top of my list for potential illustrators, because I knew that there was going to be a lot of acting that needed to be done by the characters in the Outliers books. And so I needed somebody who understood how to draw expressions that convey emotion. But I needed someone who could do that and also really appreciated the Bronze Age of comic book history and understand the importance of power and dynamism and action and excitement that came with Bronze Age storytelling for Marvel and DC in particular. So for my money, Russ is, the perfect combination of an artist who gets all of that, the influences from the Bronze Age, but isn't handcuffed to the particular details of the styles that were popular back then. He can take influences from back then and then develop a new modern style that shows the love of the Bronze Age, but it's more like a fusion of those styles with today's modern technology and somewhat artistic sensibilities. And so I'm very happy with the way that our concept sketches have been coming out, the way that the style guide's coming together. I really, really am having a lot of fun with all of the progress that we've made so far, and can't wait to have it in a finished format, because once the style guide is finished, I'm going to make it available digitally to everybody for free. Anybody who wants it will be able to have it. I'll do write-ups for each of the characters. Won't quite reveal everything that you guys will find out after you read the book, but we will definitely give you an idea of who these characters are, what they can do, and somewhat what you can expect when you read the book. This will be the last comment question, because we're going to have to wrap up the show. Russ has another commitment. So we'll end with this question. Who's your favorite character artist from the Bronze Age, Russ and Joe? I'll take this one, and then Russ, you can chime in, and then we'll close the show out. For me, it's not a single character and single artist, but it's a small group, and I kind of just put them all within the same tier. So for me, the most direct influences for the way I imagined the Outliers universe would look would be John Buscema, Neil Adams, George Perez, John Byrne, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, and Walt Simonson. I think if you were to kind of put all those into a bowl, mix them up, and then hand it to Russ and say, can you add your own style in with these guys? That's what the Outliers is going to look like. And for characters, Spider-Man, Hulk, Captain America, Superman, Batman. Um, that's that.
Yeah,
I'll also say Wolverine probably. He came in at the end of the Bronze Age. Go ahead, Russ. What are your?
yeah. I mean, my favorite character is Captain Britain on the original run.
Mm-hmm,
Um, but alongside that would be the Fantastic Four, um, Thor, and the Avengers. So you put all them together. That's my thing. As far as artists are concerned, pretty much everyone you said, with the toppermost being John Buscema,
mm-hmm,
and I am partial to Joe Sinnott's inks. Although there are several inkers on John Buscema that
mm-hmm.
are, but yeah, that I can't add any more to that list that you've, apart from maybe Brian Bolland, who obviously started it with 2000 AD at the end of the 70s, who's a fantastic artist, and I think you can see some of his um, influence in EVS's art. I don't know if he'd agree with me or that, but it certainly looks that way to me.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic artist. Although I don't think that my art looks anything like his. I just find him inspirational because I just think the work is beautiful. Something that Dan Fragger said the other day, that stream where they were all talking about art, and there's like a whole bunch of artists that you think I can use them as inspiration for the kind of work I want to do, and there's a
Right.
whole bunch of artists that you just look at in awe. And Brian Bolland is the guy that I look at in awe, as against the kind of people, like, obviously I look at John Buscema in awe as well, but I feel like I can work towards something that he inspires me, whereas I don't think I'd ever fit in Brian Bolland's way of working. So yeah, I love Bolland, but unfortunately I don't draw like Bolland.
Yeah, I
but,
don't
but
think anybody does.
no, I don't think anyone does. But people have suggested that some of the people that inspire me have reminded them. I've reminded them of those artists, and it's even better when those people say that to me and they don't know that I love those artists. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if I can just get a little tiny percentage of the legend that, and awesomeness that John Buscema was, and Joe Sinnott, and the list of people you've just done, then I'll be doing well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun for me. I hope it's been a lot of fun for you guys. I'm going to try to end this show with a song, and I think I've got the audio adjusted. So, Russ, you tell me if this is coming across. Let's close out that window, and let's try to share audio. This is Crawdaddy, Gold Standard by the great Lord Finatra. Let's tell me if you can hear this, Russ.
No, it's really low again. I can hardly hear it. There's obviously
Okay.
some technical issue there.
So YouTube is turned up all the way. Let me check StreamYard one last time, because I did turn it up. Is the let's take off echo cancellation.
No,
Still too low.
Tiny far away.
Okay.
It's something in the settings, mate.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. We'll try
Just
and
sing
get
it for
this.
us, Joe. Just sing it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Anthony Figaro's wonderful voice on there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put this link in chat. You guys, Finatra created this great song off of a live stream that Michael Bancroft did with Anthony Figaro. and we had him on, and he was talking about crawdads, crawfish, crayfish. They've got prawns. They've got different names depending on where you are from around the world. And Finatra turned it into a song that I think is just fantastic. And I'm gonna figure out a way to get it as our intro or our outro or something. We're gonna work it into the show somehow. And so my contribution was basically saying "oh," and I think there's a guarantee
We'll
in
get
there
over
as
our
well.
we'll get over our boomer ship next week.
Yeah, we'll get our stuff figured out eventually. So thank you, everybody. If you enjoyed the show, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. If you want to be notified when new content is uploaded, you can click that bell. And we hope that you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day. And hope that you don't wait to have a great day. We hope that you go out and make a great day. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
sir.